I first met Adrian Cole on a night the city forgot to breathe. The rain was slow, heavy, and deliberate, like it knew it was cleansing something unholy. I was working as an investigative journalist in London back then, chasing scandals, not ghosts. But Adrian wasn't a scandal. He was the silence that followed one. When I first saw him, sitting in the corner of that dimly lit cafe, there was something strange about him. Composed, detached, almost too calm for a man whose entire life had just been burned to ash. They said Adrian Cole used to be one of the youngest investment prodigies in Europe. By 26, he built a multimillion-dollar tech fund, partnered with the elites of Zurich, and was on the cover of Fortune. But by 28, he'd vanished. The official story said he went bankrupt. The real story began the night he disappeared. He told me once in that calm, haunting voice of his, "They didn't just take my money. They took my name." His words carried the kind of pain you can't fake. It all started when his company, Cole Dynamics, began threatening the interests of a powerful financial group, known only as the Circle, a hidden alliance of politicians, bankers, and corporate magnates who played with nations like chessboards. Adrian was the knight who moved too far forward. They framed him for fraud, leaked false reports, and within 72 hours, his company collapsed. His assets were frozen, his closest friend turned witness against him, and the woman he was engaged to, Amelia Grant, vanished with $10 million that belonged to him. He told me he didn't run that night. He simply walked away from the ashes. For 3 years no one saw him. Not the media, not the law, not even those who had destroyed him. But the world began whispering his name again when strange things started happening. Offshore accounts of his former enemies began disappearing. A politician in Vienna was found exposed in a scandal no one could trace. A banker in Geneva was blackmailed into retirement. And every time someone fell, the initials AC appeared quietly in their encrypted email servers. When I asked Adrian about it, he didn't deny it. He just smiled, that small, unshakable smile, and said, "Empires aren't always built in daylight." I didn't understand it then, but Adrian Cole was building something no one could see, a network that existed beneath the system that had betrayed him. He called it the Foundation, a shadow empire of data, secrets, and silent partners. By the time the world realized it existed, it was already too late. He started small. He bought information, not companies. Files that ruined careers, emails that broke alliances, videos that could end presidencies. He never sold them. He kept them like weapons in a vault. Power, he said, isn't about money anymore. It's about what you can make disappear. His first move was poetic. The lawyer who orchestrated his downfall, Richard Voss, received an anonymous package one morning. A USB drive containing every document proving his embezzlement, not Adrian's. Within 48 hours, Voss resigned, citing personal reasons. Within a week, his accounts were frozen. Within a month, he disappeared. No one ever saw him again. I should have been terrified. Instead, I was fascinated, because beneath Adrian's calm vengeance, there was something heartbreakingly human. He wasn't trying to destroy the world. He was trying to make it remember him. "They erased me from every record," he said one night as we stood on a rooftop in Prague, the city lights reflecting in his eyes. "So I'm writing myself back into history, one betrayal at a time. But revenge has gravity. It pulls you in deeper than you expect." Adrian's next move crossed a line even he wasn't ready for. His former fiancée, Amelia, had resurfaced in Paris under a new name, managing funds for the Circle. He could have exposed her, but he didn't. Instead, he lured her. He sent her a job offer from a company that didn't exist, the Orion Trust, an illusion crafted entirely by his digital empire. When she arrived at the office, there was no one there. Just a single note on the table. "You taught me love was a transaction. Consider this the refund." That same week, her offshore accounts were drained. Every cent she'd stolen vanished into the same shadows Adrian now ruled. She fled to Monaco. And that's when the Circle realized Adrian wasn't gone. He was evolving. Soon, whispers of his name spread across London, Zurich, and Milan's hidden circles. They called him the Ghost Architect. Banks started losing millions overnight. Politicians received threats without demands, just reminders that someone knew everything. One by one, the powerful grew afraid of an invisible force they couldn't trace. But Adrian wasn't just taking revenge. He was building a hierarchy of his own. Beneath the foundation, he created the Ember Line, a web of hackers, former spies, and outcast financiers who believed in him. They called themselves the Loyal Few. Every member owed Adrian something. A favor, a life, or salvation. He didn't command them with money. He led them with purpose. They tried to destroy me, he told them. So now we destroy the idea that they're untouchable. As his empire grew, so did the danger. The Circle retaliated. Their enforcer, Victor Hallberg, a ruthless former intelligence officer, tracked down one of Adrian's operatives in Madrid. The man vanished within hours. Adrian didn't respond with fear. He responded with precision. He leaked Victor's war crimes from a decade earlier, documents sealed by NATO itself. The next morning, Victor's name was on every international headline. He disappeared into exile. Adrian had sent a message. Touch one of mine and I'll erase you, but with every victory, I saw the toll it took on him. He barely slept. His hands trembled when he thought no one was watching. There were moments, brief but raw, when I caught him staring at the city like a man haunted by his own creation. One night, as we crossed the Charles Bridge, he said quietly, "You ever wonder what happens when revenge becomes the only reason you wake up?" I didn't know how to answer. The next morning, his enemies found a new message in their inboxes. "The empire you built on lies now answers to me." It was signed, Cole.by. Then, governments began noticing. The FBI, Interpol, and Europol had all opened silent investigations. They didn't know what they were chasing. A man, a myth, or a movement. Adrian became an untraceable ghost in a digital storm he'd created. But every empire, no matter how secret, has cracks. And Adrian's came in the form of a betrayal he never saw coming. From someone inside the foundation itself. The betrayal came quietly, like a whisper in a crowded room. It started with a trace, an encrypted line of code that shouldn't have existed inside the foundation's internal system. Adrian noticed it at 3 in the morning, while reviewing a data exchange between Zurich and Prague. One wrong signature, one unfamiliar key. Someone inside had opened a door that was never meant to exist. When he followed the trail, it led not to a stranger, but to someone he trusted more than anyone else. Her name was Lena Miles. Lena had been with Adrian from the beginning, one of the first to join the foundation. She was a coder, a strategist, and perhaps the only person who understood the depth of Adrian's mind. She'd once said, "You don't build something like this for revenge. You build it because no one else could." She admired him, or so he thought. The discovery broke something inside him. For a man who had survived betrayal after betrayal, this one hurt differently. He didn't rage. He didn't shout. He simply watched her on the surveillance feed, working at her desk in the Lisbon office, unaware that her double life had been exposed. For 3 days he said nothing. Then he sent her a message. "Meet me in Venice. Midnight. Come alone." When she arrived, the city was asleep, its canals dark and silent. Adrian stood under the arch of a stone bridge, the mist curling around him like ghosts of the past. "You were the last person I thought would sell me out," he said softly. Lena's eyes glistened, but she didn't deny it. "I didn't sell you, Adrian. I saved you. The Circle's coming. They already found the Ember Line's main server." He stared at her, silent. "You gave them access," he said finally. "You handed them my empire." Tears fell, but she held his gaze. "Because you were losing yourself in it. You think you're fixing the world, but you've become everything you hated." For a long moment, the only sound was water lapping against the bridge. Then Adrian turned away. "You think I built this for revenge," he whispered. "But I built it to prove I couldn't be erased again." He walked into the fog, leaving her there, knowing the system would erase her credentials before sunrise. But Lena was right about one thing. The Circle was coming. Within days, Adrian's hidden network began collapsing. Accounts locked, servers traced, contacts vanishing. The circle had learned from his tactics. They used his own weapons against him. Governments that had ignored his existence now joined the hunt. His empire, once invisible, was being cornered. That's when I saw the other side of Adrian Cole. The man who didn't just build an empire, but planned its death. Every system needs a failsafe, he told me. Even mine. He'd built something deep within the foundation's core. A final sequence that could erase everything. Data, identities, locations. A digital apocalypse. If I can't control it, he said, no one will. But the circle struck first. One night, as we were leaving a safe house in Prague, an explosion ripped through the street. The blast threw me against the wall. When I woke, the air was thick with smoking glass. Adrian was gone. His phone, shattered beside the fire, displayed one final message. It ends tonight. For 24 hours, the world's largest financial networks went dark. Banks, corporations, even governments found themselves locked out of their own systems. No one understood what was happening. Then, at exactly midnight, an anonymous broadcast appeared on encrypted global channels. Adrian's voice echoed through it, calm, unshaken. You built empires on deceit. You sold trust for power. Tonight, that power returns to those you buried beneath it. The circle ends here. And just like that, hundreds of servers shut down permanently. Offshore accounts holding billions in laundered money were drained and redirected to charities, hospitals, and relief networks across the world. In less than an hour, Adrian Cole dismantled the infrastructure of global corruption. Then he vanished. Interpol issued a global warrant. Some said he died in the explosion. Others whispered he'd escaped to Iceland under a new identity. But I didn't believe he was gone, because 2 weeks later, I received a package with no return address. Inside was a single silver USB drive, unmarked, and a note in Adrian's handwriting. Truth is the only empire that survives. When I plugged it into my laptop, it didn't ask for a password. It opened a single video file. Adrian was sitting in front of a camera, the same quiet intensity in his eyes. If you're watching this, he said, it means the circle is gone. But so am I. What they took from me wasn't just money, it was faith. Faith in justice, in people, in redemption. I thought revenge would heal that. It didn't. But if you're the one I trust, you'll know what to do with what's left. The screen faded, replaced by a list of encrypted files. Names, accounts, evidence. Enough to bring down anyone still standing in the ashes of his war. At the end of the directory, one file was labeled simply, elite_secrets. When I opened it, there was a message, just one line. Stories end. Empires don't. Tell mine. And that's why I'm telling it now. Because somewhere between vengeance and justice, Adrian Cole found immortality. Not in power, but in the truth he exposed. The foundation vanished, but its impact didn't. The banks rebuilt. The politicians returned. The circle renamed itself. But every shadow they cast still trembles when they hear his name. They say the dead leave echoes behind. I think Adrian became one. A ghost in the code. A whisper in every system that hides a lie. And sometimes when the networks flicker at midnight, I imagine him watching, smiling that quiet, haunting smile. Because in the end, he didn't need to rule the world. He just needed to remind it who really could. This is Elite Secrets, where every story hides a truth.